Let's cut to the chase. Eggman is a bit of a loser. Even his own robot creations acknowledge this.
Your plans have been crushed by Sonic for ever. He stops you like it's his job or something. In fact, I can't remember a plan he didn't stop.
However, in Sonic Colors originally releasing in 2010 for the Wii and the DS, Eggman once again sets a plan into motion for complete world domination. How is he doing it this time? Well, he created a theme park in space called Dr. Eggman's Incredible Interstellar Amusement Park and tells Sonic that this theme park is just an innocent venture, no dodgy business going on here at all. Sonic of course knows better, so he goes to investigate, only to find that Eggman has been collecting aliens known as Wisps to harvest their energy for a mind control laser that could see him take over Earth. Some may think by that overly simplistic plot summary that this game would follow the usual tropes of Sonic foiling Eggman's plans once again. And yes, you'd be right. You'd also be right if you think that the story in this game sucks, because the story here is incredibly surface level even for Sonic. However, what makes Sonic Colors so fun, at least to me, isn't its story. Colors attempts something new. It attempts to be different. It's a very short experience, I'll give you that. But the best way I can describe it is that it's highly condensed, concentrated fun. Within its levels, you will find designated wisps that can help you out. Through a cutscene, it is shown that a wisp can enter Sonic, and Sonic will then be given the abilities tied to that respective wisp. There are 8 new abilities here, so those mixed with the constantly changing 2D and 3D perspectives gave this game a great sense of freshness. This isn't the first time we've seen Sonic have a shift of some sort, with the game releasing before this one seeing Sonic turn into a werewolf. However, this is a stark difference in how these abilities and shifts were handled between the two games. Rather than sculpting the entire level structure around a new form, levels in Colors mostly remained as the traditional Sonic levels, and your abilities became supplementary. That is to say, they do not dictate the level design itself, but they can change how you engage within that level. This is a testament to how well the level designs are in this game, because the levels are extremely fun when you don't use your newfound abilities, but only offer more to do and see when you do decide to use these abilities. Either way, you're going to have a great time here. On top of that, you specifically get to choose when you wanted to use these abilities, if even at all. This means that players who don't want to engage in these new mechanic shifts don't have to. Gone are the days of being forced to run around a level for over 20 minutes in a form that most people just didn't like. This was a much better way of handling a new form, and it lends itself to players having a much better overall experience. Now, we are given 8 temporary abilities in this game. However, it'd be remiss of me to say that they're all just as good as each other, because they're just not. Some are incredibly fun, like the laser ability that sees you bouncing around like a pinball and utilizing secret paths through these nodes. Others allow you to enter spaces you've never previously been able to enter, like into the fucking ground through the use of a drill, and you are often rewarded for doing so with hidden rings and other collectibles. My favorite, however, was the frenzy ability, where its whole focus was on eating everything in front of you, getting bigger and eating more. You constantly grow in power, and once you start reaching substantial sizes, you feel unstoppable, and it's just so fun. A lot of these wisps also allow you to reach new areas too, so it really encourages the player to explore with these new powers to find collectibles or just see where these new paths will take you. Conversely, there are also some abilities that are just crap. There's a ghost one that allows you to slowly float around the level. There's another one that allows you to slowly float higher. And sure, you can use these rings to pull you along, but I always avoided these where I could. And I only used them if the game absolutely forced me to. They were slow, boring, and oftentimes fairly awkward to control. Now, when you start up Colors, you can see where the inspirations from other games are taken from. Each destination from this amusement park is kind of its own little world, and each world has 6 levels or acts within it, with a boss fight at the end. There is also a 7th area with 3 acts, but you don't get to that till the end of the game. Now, the first game that comes to mind when you see this setup, of course, is Mario, but it's a system that works really well so I don't really mind the mimicry. Aside from the underwater levels, I thoroughly enjoyed basically every level that Colors had to offer. Each world, so to speak, gets its own theme, which obviously lends itself to some really creative and inventive designs that were a treat to play through. Given that this whole game is set on Eggman's amusement park in space, this really allowed the locations in the game to have some of the most visually unique and imaginative designs out of most of the Sonic games I've played so far. Now, aside from the abilities that you get from those wisps, this game does very little to add anything new to the overall experience, but I don't actually think that this is a bad thing. The developers clearly looked at what made Sonic work and entirely focused on that. Gone are the slow and boring levels of other characters. Gone are the levels that take too long in other forms. Gone are the awkward team-ups. This is condensed and concentrated Sonic fun. It's back to formula, back to what works, and it paid off in droves. This game can now focus on just going fast, and each level is designed in a way to emphasize this mentality. As to be expected, the levels will have many different paths to take, which lead you to different stage collectibles or to much earlier finishes. Some levels can be completed in as little as 30 seconds, but there is enough variety and choice here that players will not feel a sense of monotony if they were to go back and replay levels for collectibles or for better times. And some changes were made here that may not sit well with certain fans. Sonic can no longer light dash through rings. He still has his boost from Unleashed, however they are now powered up by white wisps. The drift returns from Unleashed, and although I personally found it better than Unleashed, it's still not fantastic. You do only get to use it in designated areas. It's kind of hit and miss, and it doesn't really make a prominent return in this game, so it kind of fell to deaf ears. The sidestep scene in Unleashed also comes back, but instead of using the bumpers to go left or right, you use the same analog stick to make Sonic go forward. So this means you're holding the analog stick up to make him move forward, and then you have to change the direction on the same stick to either go left and right, and then back up to make sure he doesn't lose his speed. I don't get why they took it off the bumpers because it worked so well in that way, and it just feels really bad here. In terms of the game's difficulty, this game very much is on the easier side. I did not focus on getting all of the red rings, nor did I really try to get the fastest time possible or the most amount of rings, and I was still pulling B's, A's, and even some S's, which was really surprising. Now, aside from a couple of the boss fights at the end, most bosses placed at the end of each world were so easy, like laughably easy. Sonic games aren't known for amazing boss fights, but there have certainly been some really good ones in the mix. After some of the fights I've seen in my most recent playthroughs of Shadow or Unleashed, or hell, even going back to Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Colors just pales in comparisons when it comes to the boss fights. All incredibly forgettable, and most of them just rely on that uninspired 3-hit to kill formula seen and overplayed in Mario games. Now, the dialogue and humor here is pretty hit or miss. A lot more misses than there are hits. Don't get me wrong, there were moments that actually made me laugh, but most of the game seems to cater toward a younger audience. A lot of light-hearted jokes were clearly aimed towards kids, and those bits of dialogues will make some adult players cringe. And I know sometimes Sonic is pretty cringe with a lot of his dialogue, but this is just bad.
Hey Tails, you missed the BBBE.
Huh?
Best boss beating ever!
However, there were a few darker jokes in here that were clearly meant for an older audience, and I really do appreciate that.
The boss man said to wrangle every piece of this mess. When you consider what we're doing from a robot's point of view, it's actually pretty gruesome.
Don't think about it.
And there were even ones that hit a little close to home.
So, how about you and me make like Eggman's hairline and recede?
Whoa. Let's not joke about receding hairlines, okay? It's actually a really common thing, and people could really be self-conscious about it. It could happen to people who are close to you, like really close to you right now. Maybe even to the person that you're currently watching. Bald is beautiful. Aside from the wisps and once again the incredible soundtrack, seriously, what is with Sonic games having just fucking banger soundtracks? The game doesn't really do too much to add to the existing Sonic formula at this point. And it is at this point that you need to decide what you like in your Sonic games to decide, ultimately, if you will enjoy colors or not. On the surface, it does very little to change the formula, but Sonic controls very well and has more of what made past Sonic games great. If you are someone who is constantly looking for changes or reinventions to the character, this game might not be for you. But for me, I really like colors as it focused on what makes Sonic great, and it tries to hone in on that. It didn't try to reinvent the wheel, and it's a game that gives you constant fast levels with some slower platforming for contrast. It has shifting perspectives, imaginative level designs, and a fantastic soundtrack and a slew of new abilities to further change the gameplay at the player's discretion. It holds on to what's great from the games before, but does just enough to stand out on its own. Sure, it absolutely is not the best Sonic game, and it may even come across as being targeted toward a more casual fanbase, but there is enough in here where most players will find something to enjoy out of this extremely short but fun experience.